He was convicted 18 years ago in a murder case and released from prison in 2012 based on insufficient evidence.
Lorenzo Johnson resumed his life, but 6 months later, the U.S. Supreme Court reversed the decision, sent him back to prison to serve life without parole today. His lawyer, family, and supporters held a news conference to talk about their renewed fight.
Well, Alicia, those supporters say that the justice system failed Lorenzo Johnson in the past, but there are people here in Dauphin County who can make it right. It's a cold, quiet day along 14th and Market in Harrisburg. But if the streets could talk, it would settle the controversy that surrounds the case of Lorenzo Johnson, who was sentenced to life in prison for his role in the shooting death of 24-year-old Cogee Williams. His attorneys filed an appeal with the Court of Common Pleas and dropped off a petition at the Attorney General's office. It has more than 1,000 signatures asking Kathleen Kane to free Johnson or grant an evidentiary hearing.
He has evidence there that the main witness recanted, evidence that the witnesses against him were coerced into falsifying their statements. There's no physical evidence, no evidence at all against Lorenzo Johnson.
Johnson's supporters say he had an alibi that put him in New York at the time of the murder. Jeffrey Deskovic was wrongfully convicted of a crime in New York State and received a 7-figure settlement. He uses the money to help other innocent people seek justice. He remembers taking Lorenzo Johnson back to prison after the U.S. Supreme Court reinstated his murder conviction in May 2012.
So at times we're rotating drivers, and we said, look how crazy this is. I'm driving myself back to prison to resume a life without parole sentence for a crime I'm innocent of.
Lorenzo's wife is overwhelmed by the support she's getting from people she's never met.
1,000 signatures means that we're not in this alone. There's 1,000 people out there that are supporting us.
She says she's not lost faith in the justice system.
Through God, that's the way that I'm strong, and I won't stop until he's home. There's nothing and no one that can stop me from fighting for what's right.
And once again, Johnson's attorneys filed an appeal to Common Pleas Court asking Judge Hoover for an evidentiary hearing.
Hey, we back, everybody. Welcome back to Conversations with Cogee. Hey, I definitely want y'all to hear the stuff that I play, because this is all real. What y'all hearing is real. It ain't fabricated. This is the real news. These are the real stories. These are the real people going through these problems, and who's been falsely accused. These are people who's been put away. These are people who's been forgot about. These are people who's just been judged, and half of the time they feel like that's just it, open and closed case. But hey, it ain't no open and closed case, especially if these people are innocent. And that's why I do this show, to definitely make sure. Well, I'm gonna move real fast because we got the last clip you heard was Mr. Lorenzo Johnson, and we have Mr. Lorenzo Johnson on the line with us from prison right now. But I want to go to Jeffrey real quick. Jeffrey Deskovic, how you doing today, sir?
I'm great. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing fine. Jeffrey, I want to thank you for bringing Lorenzo on today, and me and you going to move real quick because I want people to hear Lorenzo's story and definitely sign this petition to help this man out, man. That's what we fighting for, and this is why me and you joined together to do this show, and I definitely want to thank you, sir. And what would you want to say on the case real quick, and then we're going to go right to Lorenzo.
I was profoundly impacted by this case. I mean, to have a wrongful conviction reinstated and be returned back to prison is every exoneree's nightmare. I had the unfortunate experience of experiencing that vicariously through having to drive Lorenzo back to prison to resume a life without parole sentence for a crime. It was clear to me and many others that he was wrongfully convicted of.
Right. Okay. And me and you going to talk a lot more about that in your last hour. But I called you because I want you to be here with us right now, because you're a big part of this situation with Lorenzo. And I want to say God bless you, Jeffrey, and what you're doing, you and your foundation. And hey, we definitely supporting you as well. And I got to love. But now we're going to bring Mr. Lorenzo Johnson. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine. All is well. And yourself?
Oh, man, I'm blessed to have you here, and I'm blessed to be able to help you, man, and bless you,
with this support.
Thank you, man. Thank you. With this conversation that we're going to have right now, I just want you to say, can you let the people know real quick what you were accused of and, how they found you guilty on something you didn't have nothing to do with, quick as possible? I know you're on a time limit, but I want to do everything I can do to help you.
1995, I was falsely arrested for conspiracy to criminal homicide. 1997, I was falsely convicted of criminal homicide and conspiracy for being or being present during when the murder posted had taken place. And there was no witnesses that said I did anything, and their main witness original statement to the police was she didn't know nothing, she wasn't there, and they had used this witness to put me on the scene. That was enough for them to say that I conspired to do something that I never conspired to do, and I'm let alone ever there. That was proven on their part. And, you know, I appealed. I did 16 and a half years. And the Third Circuit Court of Appeals reversed and vacated my sentence under the grounds of insufficient evidence, which is equivalent to a not guilty verdict. So I couldn't get retried. So I was eligible for unconditional bail. So I got bailed out, and I went back to New York. So within 5 months, the United States Supreme Court, which was their only last appeal, reinstated my conviction without allowing my attorneys to file a brief, oral arguments, or anything. Basically, without really notice. Everything was done in one day. And I had a certain time period that I had to do before. A certain time period before I had to return back to a life sentence and start fighting for my innocence all over again.
Right. And Lorenzo, let me ask you this real quick. If they say, okay, once you've been tried, you can't be tried again, how did they slip through the loophole of that and they brung you back to prison and they, got you up under this again?
Basically, what happened is under technicality where they said that the Third Circuit Court of Appeals didn't give deference to the jury, meaning that, the jury, they wasn't supposed to mess with the verdict. Well, if that's the case, how could we ever challenge something that a jury, a conviction that a jury found somebody guilty or innocent?
Right. And you said even when they judged your whole situation, that the verdict came so fast that you feel like they didn't really look into it to keep...
Now, what happened is that back in 1998, I first got a dissenting opinion for one of my appeals that was denied in the Pennsylvania Superior Court. One judge said there was no evidence linking me to crime, let alone any on a conspiracy. He voted to have my charge vacated back in 1998, but the other judges against him. No way in the Pennsylvania State Court have they ever ruled on the issue of insufficiency of evidence.
Okay.
That only judge was. The rest of the judges went with the trial judge.
Right.
So what happened was when I got up to federal court years later, I won on that issue. That issue right there, like I told you, is equivalent to a not guilty verdict, meaning that they couldn't retry me. So Pennsylvania had one appeal left, and that was to go to Washington, United States Supreme Court. They did that. They kept relisting my case, meaning they kept continuing it, because normally when they accept a case for certiorari, that's appeal for the United States Supreme Court. They regularly give you a briefing date and they give you an oral argument date if they're gonna, if they're gonna grant the appeal. They didn't do that in my situation. My situation, they instantly just reinstated the conviction, ordered me back to prison.
Wow. You know what? Another thing I want to ask you, with the person that said they ID'd you and said it was you, and then they recanted their story and said they didn't see it. With that whole time, they just left you dangling with, there's no witness. The witness said that all of a sudden they didn't do it, but still you in prison. How was that?
There's no witness to this case alone saying they've seen anything. All this witness saying they heard. There's no eyewitness to this case.
Okay.
And, it's already circumstantial evidence which was insufficient. So with all the new evidence that we have now, it basically solves the case for them. But yet still, when they know they're wrong, it's a process. That's why it's an average of 12 years that a wrongful conviction prisoner do before they get acquitted or get justice. If they get justice, that's why it takes so long, because all this they take you to when they know that, they could do the right thing.
This call is from the State Correctional Institution at Mahanoy and is subject to monitoring and recording.
Okay. Can you still talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just want to ask you, if you could look back on, if you could go back and do this all over again, what would you have done different fighting your case right now?
Oh, well, when I came to prison, I had got my education and everything in prison. I got my GED in prison. I got college credits in prison. And for a while, I represented myself because I wrote over 300 innocent organizations from West Coast, East Coast, out of the country for assistance.
Okay.
Because I had evidence to clear me, and I couldn't get the assistance. So when the assistance did came, the issue that I won in federal court and I got released on was an issue that I raised myself on appeal I did for myself. That a lawyer that stepped on board, Michael Wiseman, had amended my petition and we had won on.
Okay, I hear
So
you.
if I could do anything different, it's like I wouldn't really change anything. I would just go harder because
You have 60 seconds remaining.
it's 18 years I spent in prison that I never supposed to have been here.
Right, I hear you. And what would you want to say real quick about the Jeffrey, Deskovic Foundation?
Oh, Jeff, like, is a good friend of mine, and he stands for justice. He's been through this nightmare that I'm going through now, and he's sincere about what he do, and it's not often that you run into somebody that's passionate about him, like as him. And he's, like I said, he's been there. He supports me, and we're gonna win this together.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And what can people do? What can we do to help you?
Well, you could sign a petition. Go to freelorenzojohnson.org. Sign a petition. You could make donations there. You could get in touch with the movement. You could go on the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation.org website and voice your opinion about things and help out, make contributions there to help him sustain his thing to keep supporting me.
Okay. Will you be able to call back in? Or it's your last call? Oh, okay. Well, that's it. He dropped off. So everybody, Jeffrey, do you want to give that information again, where everybody can go and definitely look at Lorenzo's page, Free Lorenzo Johnson. Can you give us all that information, please?
Yes, absolutely. freelorenzojohnson.org. So I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, freelorenzojohnson.org. You go to on the home page there. There's a vertical where you just click on how can I help. That'll display a petition. We're trying to get as many signatures as possible. We were able to gather in a short amount of time about 1,000 signatures, including many from people who are international or from other countries. So I personally hand delivered 1,000 petitions to a representative from the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. And as your audio clip that you played at the beginning of your show indicates, having people with you, it sends a message, to authorities that, people are watching this case, and, it's important to have the support of people. Then maybe you got a half chance that maybe they might decide to play fair.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you, Jeffrey. Lorenzo has calling back in. So, Lorenzo, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so Lorenzo, you were saying, people can, go to your website and they can hook up with you. Jeffrey just got through breaking it all down to us. But the thing about it, Lorenzo, I want to ask you real quick. When you finally got free and you was out for a while, man, how did that feel? And what was the first thing you done when you got out?
First thing I did was, we had went shopping and I went and got dressed and went to see my family. That's the first thing I had to reestablish myself with my family. It's been a while. I was away for 16 and a half years.
Right.
We all kept in contact, but I'm like the glue to my family, so that was the first thing I went to do.
I hear you. And when you got out, what was different? What was so different, to you about the world from when you went in?
Everything changes as far as technology and everything, but I kept abreast on everything, and the strange thing about it was like I never left.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you.
It was like, when I left the streets, it was Motorola flip-up phones with the big batteries.
Right.
And then when I come home to a touchscreen, like, it's totally different,
Right. I hear you.
I end up mastering that within a couple of days. But, I was focused with a plan. Like, when your life is taken from you, especially for something that you ain't do, you always made a promise to yourself that if you ever get that opportunity again, that you're going to make the best of it. And how you would ever say, I could only do this again, like you asked me earlier.
Right.
I had got a chance to do that. And, basically speaking on wrongful conviction, speaking to the troubled youth, working, coming home to the family, my wife, like everything I wanted I had. I still have. I just got to get back to it.
I hear you, man. So let's talk about your wife. Well, if you could say anything about your wife right now, what would you say about your wife to everybody listening right now?
Our world. My backbone.
I hear you.
My backbone, I say that.
Wow. Did you meet her while you was in there, or was you with her before you got incarcerated?
I met her. I met her soon when I came home, and it was like pretty much a wrap from there.
Okay. Okay. And how is it being, holding your relationship from prison?
Oh, it's different because she's like, not only am I innocent, but she's innocent to this type of situation, and came a long way because you can't just take an average, female, then take a man away and say he's gone for the rest of his life, something he didn't do, and you have to now go see him and get phone calls and put money on phone cards and send packages or whatever, travel hours away to see him. That's it's hard,
Right. And what would,
but she's strong. She's strong.
I hear you. And what would you say to anybody out there that's listening that really don't understand how much help that you guys need? The ones that's really innocent. You know what I'm saying?
Correctional institution at Mahanoy and is subject to monitoring and recording.
I'm one of many wrongful convicted prisoners, and I just happen to have a little support right now to get my story out there. There's a lot of people in my situation that doesn't have the outlet that I have, like talking to you right now, so people could hear, and people working on the case or investigating the case or something to bring forth to society. But what I can say is, if anybody knows anybody in this situation, that they need to get behind them and stand by them. Like I said in one of my articles, social media is a wrongful conviction nightmare because, social media will break a story and tell the truth instantly, as of when I fell or when Jeff first got incarcerated. You get convicted with the radio station, the newspaper, and the TV news. Nowadays, social media is more advanced now. Like, you don't got to wait that 12 years for your story to come out if you're in possession of the truth about your case.
Right, I hear you on that. You're definitely right about that. And what like with your attorneys and the different people that stuck by you, you definitely, I know you want to give them some love too, the people, man, that really helped around for you.
Definitely, you got Michael Wiseman, Amy Danella, Shara Davis, Kitty Haley, Jenna Rosanna. It's a lot of people. The whole Capitol Habeas Unit in Philadelphia. They definitely was extremely, there was a reason that I walked out the first time. Like, they stood behind me. They even came and picked me up when it was over with.
I hear you.
But I thought it was over with at that time.
Right. Will you be able to call right back in when your phone cut out?
I'll try. I'm definitely going to try.
Okay, all right. Well, I know we on that short time, but I definitely want to say, man, I definitely want to support you, and I want to stay, in the current events of your situation with Jeffrey, so we can bring you on, whenever we have a show, and you can bring us up to speed on what's changing, for your situation.
But Jeffrey will be able to bring you up to speed because the attorneys have a meeting with the Attorney General in Pennsylvania this month.
Okay. All
and
right.
Hopefully, justice could be served once and for all then.
Right. Now, let me ask you something. Now, if you get convicted again on this one, is this your last trial and you won't have no more?
It's one thing for sure in my case, trial would not even be an issue because, first and foremost, I was never supposed to get convicted the first time.
Okay.
And now we got witnesses, saying how the police threatened people to make statements, how they kept people away from me, how they withheld evidence that showed my innocence from day one. They would never want to take that back to trial. I'm willing to go if they're willing to go.
Right.
If that's the question, if they're willing. You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, man. Yeah, definitely. So what y'all trying to do is just say, hey, come on, it's been long enough. He's been out. And
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
He's been out. And I want to ask you real quick, how did that feel for you to have to drive yourself back to prison, you and Jeffrey?
Ah, man, it started off, I left my wife and got in the car with Jeff from Yonkers, New York, and then, it was silence for a minute, basically, I'm living Jeff's worst nightmare out, and I'm living my worst nightmare out, and, me and him became extremely close, so, it was it was real hard, that was, I can't even compare nothing that's as hard as that right there, and then knowing what you're up against is, that's another thing, it's that's something I can't even explain, that's, it crushed me,
Right.
I wasn't the same for the first couple months, mentally, I thought I was going to drift off,
Right.
That's how deep it was.
But you know what? Let me ask you this. When you got the call that said, hey, we need you to come back to prison, take me back to that day real quick as possible.
I was at work. when the lead attorney, Michael Wiseman, called me. that, you know, I got some bad news. But he was crying during the call, so I didn't understand what he was saying. All I heard him say was, United States Supreme Court reinstated your conviction. When I heard that, that's when I was twisted about that. And my first thing, you know, he told me that, he told me he'll call me back later. So I left work and I went straight down to the Deskovic Foundation to meet Jeff. And like I was telling him on the way down there what just took place. He didn't know what was going on, so they, you know, the lawyers from the foundation called the lawyers from Pennsylvania, and they started going back and forth. So by the time I got there, you know, they was catching up to what was going on. But for me, it was crazy for me because now you're telling me that I got to go back to a place where I never belonged at.
Right, right.
No, you actually convicted me for a crime when I wasn't even in the state when this crime took place.
Wow.
So, you know, it's a lot of things run through my brain. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of things run through my brain. And, you know, I had to talk to a lot of people, you know, to get my mind straight because, like I said, I'm innocent. I don't have no need to run. I don't got no need to hide. You know, that's what they wanted me to do. That's not an innocent person wouldn't do that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But don't get me wrong. The mental torture that you suffer for being here, people would do that just not to go through that again, knowing what they're up against.
Right. And you know what hurts me about this?
You know, it was... Again?
You know what hurts me about this whole situation? When they say you were judged by a jury of your peers. Can you speak on that real quick?
When they say you judged by a jury of your peers, that's kind of totally false. Like, I didn't have no peers on my jury. All my jury was pretty much older. And when you say that, like, in Pennsylvania, they got a blanket charge of criminal homicide. It's not like other places where you got to go to a grand jury, then you get indicted, then you go to, you know, go on from there. They give you a blanket charge of criminal homicide. If the jury finds you guilty, then they tell the jury that, oh, well, you could find him guilty of this degree, this degree, this degree. Now, these people are layperson of the law. They don't know the law to know what degree. They just tell these people to, like, if you feel that they did this, you could convict them of that. Now, mind you, my trial only lasted a day and a half because there was no evidence in my case. They deliberated longer than my trial. At 12 o'clock at noon, they started deliberating. They came back with their verdict at 8:30 at night. They didn't even let them go home like normally, like they would do.
Wow.
They kept them from 8 o'clock to 8:30 at night. 12 o'clock to 8:30 at night deliberating. That was basically longer than my trial. And, you know, that tells you that they didn't really want to come back with that verdict, you know?
Right, right. So somebody in there didn't feel comfortable about it.
Exactly.
Wow.
And all of this stems from, you know, they tried to give me a deal in the beginning of 5 years to lie on my co-defendant, you know, and being that I didn't want to cooperate with him, it's like everything went downhill from there, you know?
Right, right. And, you know, the thing about it is, you know, a lot of people that get exonerated, y'all get out, but they still won't, you know, expunge y'all's record.
And then that's another thing that people they gotta fight. Like, when I left out, they were still reaching for me. As far as they one appeal left, they were still reaching for me, knowing that, you know, well, this wasn't right. Now, as far as with the expunging your record and things of that nature, like, this got to be done, because if you don't get that done, that means that charge is still on you. You might have got out of the prison sentence you was doing, but you're still convicted under that charge.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And I mean, in some states, it's almost like a tag out. Either you take it or you stay in jail. If you don't like it, stay in jail.
Exactly. And a lot of, like, society, you know, you got to look, it's been almost, close to 500 exonerations. And, you know, this is not just little mistakes that's going on. This is everyday things that's going on.
You know,
and a lot of people say they only see it on TV or they only read it in books and they don't believe it. But, you know, I'm one of the ones that's been affected, along with my family and friends, you know, that's suffering, you know, this inhuman act, you know?
Right. But you know what, let me ask you this, Lorenzo. How long, I mean, with the expungement on y'all's record and y'all fresh out of prison, how hard is it to get back into society the honest way in somebody else's eyes?
Oh, well, one thing for sure, like, you know, I came home and I had a job, like, set up for me. It's like, you know, if I could sit here and work for 19 cents an hour, so there's no reason why I can't go out there and get a job. Now, don't get me wrong. It's hard to get a job during these times.
Right.
But
this call is from the State Correctional Institution at Mahanoy and is subject to monitoring and recording.
But through due diligence, evidence, you could get you a job. Like, and but rap with the crazy thing, the day I got the decision to come back was the day that I was supposed to start a job that Jeffrey set up for me full time.
Right. Okay. But
I already was working somewhere else, and he had set up something for me to get another better job. And the day that I was supposed to go was the same day that they came back with their decision. On May 29th, 2012.
Oh, wow. But let me ask you this. Okay, the reason why I asked you is because if you wanted to get a job at, say, Ford Motor Company or somewhere that's a big company that'll really, give you a fair chance, but with that not being expunged off your record, they really can't give it to you all because of the record. That's why I'm saying it really hurts.
It's hard.
Right, okay.
Extremely hard. Like, you got a shot already against you. When you got people that went to school for this that's not even getting a job because it's so hard out there.
60 seconds remaining.
And for you to have that on your jacket, like, you can pretty much forget about it unless you know somebody there that's going to give you a fair shot.
Right. And, with you knowing that and with you being in prison right now, have you taken up a trade to where when you get out, you can do your own thing and be your own boss? Because that's just the best way to do it right now with what's over your head.
Exactly. Like, I'm trying to get in a forklifting class right now that, teaches about all of that in warehousing.
Right.
That you can run your own warehouse.
That's 30 seconds remaining.
And I try to always, further my education while I'm here.
Okay.
That's the main thing. Like, to keep, don't get caught up in this jailhouse politics and things that go on behind these bars because you don't belong here. Your whole thing is get your education, your time come, you meet the opportunity.
Right. And have you had any trouble in prison behind your case, like somebody thinking you really done something that you didn't do and it's brought drama to you?
Oh, I went through it in the county.
Oh, okay. Well, he dropped off again, everybody. So, we definitely want to pray, for Lorenzo. And like I said, he's going to try to call back in. So I'm going to go to you, Jeffrey. You with me?
Absolutely, Cogee. Yes.
Oh, okay, hold on. Now I want to go to V real quick. V, you with me?
I'm here, Cogee.
V, what do you think about what you just heard with Mr. Lorenzo?
My heart is breaking. Like, literally breaking right now. I just, it's making me teary-eyed. I can't imagine what it felt like to go from being in jail to being exonerated to having to go back. And, Cogee, again, I'm just so thankful that you give people that are enduring what he's enduring a platform. And Jeffrey, I'm thankful that you were able to walk beside him through this too. Like, it's just, my heart hurts.
I hear you. Let's go to Foxy real quick. Foxy, just what do you think about what you just heard a minute ago?
Well, I was just thinking of Facebook is really a social media that I'm going to go and put free Lorenzo Johnson on.
Okay.
Because he's from my town,
Right.
Yonkers.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, he hold on. He's right back in, everybody. Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, you back with me. So, I want to go to Jeffrey real quick. Jeffrey, what you want to say to Lorenzo? We got him on the line.
Well, I just want to say, that, I'm cautiously optimistic, that this meeting with the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, coming up this month. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic that this thing can be turned around. I mean, we do have some good evidence of innocence. We got some alibis and that witness who, there was one witness who just said she heard a gunshot, not even saying that she saw Lorenzo, but that said she heard a gunshot when she walked past him. She recanted her testimony to Lorenzo's lawyer. She said, look, get away from me. I don't want to talk about this. I don't know nothing about this case. I wasn't even there. So that's a strong piece of evidence because an attorney is an officer of the court. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that the coverage that we've obtained for Lorenzo has helped change the landscape of the case. I mean, we did a rally. I let my name to this. I mean, the foundation's been helping out. We've done some investigative work on the New York side. We've been helping to push the case from a public relational aspect. So we got the Associated Press to do a national story, which went around. ABC went around. You played a highlight of the video. We're doing this radio show. We're pushing different media outlets just to keep, keep the attention on Lorenzo's case. So that's the best that we could do at the moment. Just stay strong, don't quit. That He calls in to us a couple of times, a week anyway. So just stay strong, Lorenzo. You got people behind you, man. People that care. You should have heard. You should have heard the emotional responses from Cogee's other guests on the show. Just listening to you. Your story moves people.
Right. Hey, V.
Hi, Cogee.
V.
Hi, Lorenzo.
Lorenzo's back on the phone. Go ahead. You can repeat what you said.
Lorenzo,
State Correctional Institution.
I've just been choked up, teary-eyed, just knowing what you're having to endure and your family, and just thinking about the emotions that you've had to go through, from being locked up to being exonerated to willfully going back. Instead of running, you face fear head on, and dread. And I just, and hearing when you were released, giving all the glory to God and your heart of forgiveness, I'm just know that I'm praying for you, and you have people in your corner.
I appreciate it, and thanks a lot, me and my family.
All right.
Thank you.
Foxy, what would you like to say to Lorenzo real quick? We're going to come around the board to everybody.
Hi, Lorenzo. This is Foxy.
How you doing?
All right. I'm a big user of Facebook, and I will be putting your information on Facebook like maybe once a week, so people can get the information for you.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it the whole show.
Okay.
All right.
Lorenzo has a Facebook. He has a Facebook page. If you could help direct people to his page, because he does have someone that has a page for him. So helping to send traffic over there through your Facebook friends, I think would be really helpful. Don't you think, Ren?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Big Blaze, what would you like to say to Lorenzo?
How you doing, Lorenzo?
How you feeling?
I'm hanging in there. I'm kind of at a loss of words right now because just given the fact that I still got a lot of issues of my own that I haven't got over yet. But just listening to your story, it has made me a little bit sick to my stomach. But I wish you well, man. I hope God stays in your life and is a great part of your recovery towards this situation, man. And stay strong.
I appreciate it. I definitely need the prayers. I very need them.
And
you got him.
And Lorenzo, Big Blaze, he was in our first hour. He was falsely accused as well, and he's fighting a court case right now as well. But he wanted to stay here, man, and show that love to you and Jeffrey in this second and third hour.
I definitely appreciate that.
Okay, Miss Peaches, we're gonna go to you on the phone. How you doing today, Miss Peaches?
I'm doing really well. I'm glad to hear everybody on the show today, and your special guest, Mr. Lorenzo. I'm glad that you're with us today.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your story, because we know that there are a lot of people that have been down the road that you've been, maybe not exactly, but similar situation, and they definitely need that strength that you have speaking to them. So thank you for sharing your story. And, you have a great team around you, and it's growing, as you can see, just by you sharing your voice, and we appreciate that.
I think for the support, people in my situation, their stories need to get out so society can be in tune with what's going on. These are the stories that you don't see every day on CNN, and these are the stories that's swept under the rug. And I stand on the truth. Whatever I say could be shown in the record. And
right.
Like I said, I won't stop until I get my freedom back. And I don't only fight for myself. I stand firm for all the other innocent people that's in the same struggle.
That's right. I hear you, man. Definitely.
I know they appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Miss Peaches. So I'm gonna go to Ryan right now. Ryan, what would you like to say to Lorenzo?
Hi there, Lorenzo. How are you doing?
How you feeling, Ryan?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just listening to your story, and it sounds so terrible. While you've been in here, what would you say to anyone who's going through your type of situation if you could give them some kind of advice in hindsight?
In this type of situation here, the best thing to do is, get in the law library, learn your case inside out, and reach out. Like everybody who will listen about your situation and to try to get all the help you could get. That's the main thing in these situations is getting in touch with foundations and people to come to your support and believe in your innocence.
Thank you very much.
All right. Lorenzo, how important is it? People don't understand this, but how important is it to know the law?
It's important to know the law, because if you don't know the law, you don't know what's going on in your case. Like, I know what I know now. When I was sitting at the beginning stage of my case, all the stuff that they were saying and doing wouldn't have been flying over my head, and I would have been pretty much on point. So when my rights was being violated, and you know, and things of that nature, like education is everything. Like, you know, that's number one.
Okay,
and it helps you articulate yourself, because you know everything starts with yourself with this situation here, and if you can't articulate your innocence or you know get your story out there, you're in trouble.
Right. You're definitely right about that. And let me ask you something. With any public defenders, you know, that you've dealt with, have you ran across some good ones?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I ran into some excellent lawyers that was underpaid, as we all know.
Right.
You know, and I ran across some excellent ones, but I also ran across some that was working hand in hand into wrongful.
This call is from the State Correctional Institution at Mahanoy and is subject to monitoring and recording.
I also ran across some that was working hand in hand with wrongful convictions, like failing to do investigations, so failing to, you know, bring certain things out about your case, you know, and it end up hurting people. Then these same lawyers will come back down on appeal and try to lie about why they was justified in not doing what they had to do.
Right. You're definitely right about that, because we definitely have some people that's working with us, public defenders that's working with us, that definitely have spoke on the case before on our show, and they just let me know, because at one time I was saying, well, you know, people run and get a public pretender, you know what I'm saying? I was saying it, but then this this public defender that works with us said, Cogee, I don't think it's right for you to say that, because you putting me down too, and I fight hard to make sure that I help those who can't help themselves, and you put us all in a box. So that's why I asked you, have you ran across any good ones? Because starting the show today, I did say that there are some good ones out there that only can fight with as much power as they have.
Exactly. Like in my situation, like I had, you know, the Capital Habeas Unit from out of Pennsylvania. They're federal defenders, and they work for, you know, death row prisoners. I didn't have a capital case, but I was the only case that they defended. And they're the best at their field. Like, they're the best in this state when it comes down to this type of situation, you know, the federal court.
Right. And you know what? How hard is it to get the right attorney that you feel you need when there's no funds? Can you speak on that, and why you need help with that?
It's extremely difficult, and being that they underpaid mean they really don't want to do that much work, you know. And even the ones that got talent sometimes fall victim to the lack of being paid. Like, you know, a lot of, you know, a lawyer told me the other day, you know, it's not pro bono no more, it's low bono.
Right.
So Michael Washington said he coined that phrase, but at the end of the day, it's like, without the right representation, not only are you if you're innocent, you're fighting a wrongful conviction, but you're fighting against everything now, because not only you're fighting against the person who's representing you, you're fighting against the wrongful conviction. So, like, how could you win?
Right. I hear you, man, definitely. But let me ask you this, because on our shows, we done had different people to come through, and I didn't ask them this question, and they done really broke it down to me. How long were you in there before you start having a breakdown like, oh, my God, I'm in here? You know, everybody goes through.
On the way back?
On the way back?
When you say when I got back, like when I
No. When you first went in, how long was it before you hit that? Before you start having like a nervous breakdown, like, oh my God.
When I first went in, I thought, like they was trying to persuade me, lie on somebody, and eventually they was gonna free me. But as time went on, well, I went to a preliminary hearing where this female pointed me out that I never even saw before and told me that I was there. And that's when it dawned on me, like, that I'm in some real stuff. Like, not saying I didn't know, but I didn't know that it was. I always thought that at my next court hearing that the truth was going to come out.
Right.
And that wasn't the case. Every time I went, it was a witness lying or one of my alibi witnesses, so that if they had a pending charge, they was using them against me, saying that we wasn't together or they can't remember the time. Like that was a big thing in my trial. A lot of witnesses saying they couldn't remember when we were together or when was we in New York. So, that Brady violation is a big thing when they offer somebody a deal or leniency or money to testify to, distort, your story. It's huge. That's when I really knew that I was up against, I was in over my head when I got my education and I really, could think things out and see things for what they was.
Right. And how hurtful is it when you're sitting in court and you look at this woman you never seen and she's like, no, it's him. I'm telling you, it's him. But but in court, you are not allowed to say nothing to her, like to say, ma'am, will you really look at me? It's really not me.
It's a shock value. Like, it's a shock value, and you got to be careful of how your body actions is in front of the jury or in court, because you don't want to make yourself look as a guilty person. And at the end of the day, back then, I was illiterate to the law, so a lot of questions I could have got asked and stuff like that was, like I said, I was uneducated, so I was over my head.
Right. I hear you. What do you say to a lot of brothers in there, man, that, is fighting the same situation you fighting, but you see them breaking down, man. You see them not being able to hold on stronger and stronger.
I wish this on nobody, even the people that have me here and they're still fighting to keep me here. Like, this is something right here that is like really cannibalistic. Like, it's like, just imagine living in the bathroom with another man, and this is where you're supposed to be at for the rest of your life. Like, this is for real. Like, the stuff on the movies, okay, it might be emotional watching it, but that has nothing on what's going on in reality. Like,
wow.
Today.
Wow. And what would you want to say to our youth that's out here committing the crimes? It ain't even no falsely accused with them. They're committing the crimes to come to prison. They bragging about, I want to go to prison. They bragging about,
There's nothing cool about being in prison. There's nothing gangster or whatever you want to call about told when to eat, how much tissue you could get to wipe your butt, and when you could go outside and when the lights go out, and when could you touch your family. There's nothing cool about this.
Wow. And
nothing at all.
Right. And you know what, Lorenzo?
I highly appreciate everybody. I highly appreciate the support.
30 seconds remaining.
I highly appreciate the support. Coach, you stay in touch with me.
I will.
And I appreciate everybody, and I encourage others to sign the petition and, get with the Deskovic Foundation, to help support, my situation.
Okay, and I'm gonna definitely get the address from Jeffrey, and I'm definitely gonna send you something, man, and keep you a letter of encouragement coming to you, my brother.
I highly appreciate it. I highly appreciate everything, and thanks everybody.
Thank you, man. All right, you take it easy. We'll be praying for you. All right, Jeffrey.
Yep.
All right. So, Jeffrey, I definitely want to thank you, man, for, setting that phone call up for us. And you'll be coming in this third hour, and you definitely going to break down a lot of stuff, that you've been going through, a lot of stuff that you've been dealing with, a lot of stuff that you've been overachieving, making happen. I see you shining on Facebook. I see you. And I always send you some love and root you on, man, because you definitely doing your job. And I got so much love for you, man, because you are nonstop. And you took your money, man, and you put your money back into the community to help people who's going through what you've been through. And, I definitely want you to get ready and get set up for the third hour, and we get ready to take a break, and we'll be coming into the third hour, and you'll be able to do your thing for the whole hour. Me and you gonna go back and forth, and I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I know you definitely gonna break them down the best way you can to the public to try to spoon feed them, and we gonna talk to them like infants to try to help them understand this situation that people are going through, being falsely accused.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Cogee.
All right. So, everybody, I just want y'all to know that Mr. Lorenzo Johnson, he definitely needs your prayers. We definitely need to, y'all can look over the case and y'all can read, what he been through. And, if you truly feel that this man, needs help, you can help sign the petition. And, as anybody of any color, if anything comes across our board, across me and Jeffrey's desk, it ain't about color. It's about love. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't about, okay, well, this person's black, let's give them a little bit more support. This person's white, let's give them a little more support. No, it's about these people have been wrongly put away. And it ain't what God got us here for. And, it just hurts me when I hear these stories, because it's like everybody takes over this world like it's their world, and this is God's world. Everybody runs it like it's theirs, like they can just do whatever they want to do with people, throw people to the wolves, just anything. And that ain't even what it's about. But I truly do believe in karma. I truly do believe in what you do to others. It might not hit you, but it might hit your children. It might hit your mom. And I got some stories of people I know for a fact that done certain things. And I watch their children go through something that I know that their parents done a long time ago. I know for a fact it happened. So when you think you're getting away with certain things like, putting people away, setting people up, shooting, killing, all that stuff, it's going to come back. It's definitely going to come back. It's just best not to do it. Why is it so hard to be a good person over being a bad person? Why is it so hard to just turn the other cheek and this person ain't worth shooting down in the street over an argument? Why is it, worth it to have so much vengeance and so much get back at somebody that you're going to just destroy their life when you can just leave them alone and just let life destroy them anyway? Because if they did it to you, they ain't going to stop. They're going to keep doing it, and eventually it's going to catch up with them. So that's why we do this show, everybody. We trying to talk real logic and real sense into our community, and we trying to slow down the crimes that are truly committed, and we trying to save the ones who are falsely accused. So, like I said, y'all stay locked in. And like I said, I'm so glad Jeffrey's here with me. It's my main man. We definitely going to be bringing these shows more stronger. We're bringing in a lot more different people with a lot more stories. And me and Jeffrey ain't going to stop. Me and Jeffrey going to see this through, and hey, whoever joins on with us is cool. Whoever don't, hey, me and Jeffrey can't worry about that. We got to worry about the matter at hand. And that's this I've Been Falsely Accused Part 9 that we're doing right now. And we're going to get all the way up to 2,000 parts if we can help it. But we need everybody to play their part. So much love to everybody, and we'll be right back. Stay locked in.